And let's head over to a little bit of the rankings review, my brother. So listen, it's going to be a little different today, man. I want to take an unorthodox approach to this and talk about the heavyweight division. So, brother, if you do not mind, I'm just going to pull up these heavyweight rankings really quickly while we're doing this. And what I wanted to talk about today, like I said, unorthodox. I wanted to talk about Ryan Bader. And obviously, he's the champion. What are we talking about rankings? We know who he's going to fight next. But this is a former UFC fighter. This is a Bellator champion, light heavyweight and heavyweight champion at one point. Retained his heavyweight belt, so he is still a champion. Sometimes when you go on that skid of losing your belt, losing a couple fights, things can get really ugly really fast. But my question to you, AJ, is where does Ryan Bader, Darth Bader right now, where does he stand in the grand scheme of a mixed UFC / Bellator heavyweight pool? Like if we did just top 5, top 10 of all heavyweight fighters between Bellator and UFC, where would Ryan Bader stand? He is a champion in this division, but my question to you is he top 5 UFC right now? Is he top 3 UFC? And the reason why I ask that is because when we're looking at the heavyweight rankings, brother, obviously Francis Ngannou is the champ. You got Cyril Gane, former interim champ, now number one contender, even though in my book, Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight GOAT, is still the number one contender. The man gets no love, disrespect every week. We have to just mention it time and time again. Derek Lewis at 3, Curtis Blades at 4, Alexander Volkov at 5. So I want to do process of elimination right here, brother. If we're talking Alexander Volkov versus Ryan Bader, who are you giving the nod to right now?
Oof, man, Volkov. I think that's at that level. I think he'll get absolutely smashed on by anybody that's 4 and above. But that's really where it starts for me, man. Volkov, I can see that being a little bit closer of a fight. Maybe Bader wrestles him out. Maybe Bader gets in the clinch. But I definitely think Volkov gets the finish for sure, man.
All right,
He uses that length to his advantage. Start getting some kicks. I just think it's too highly touted, personally.
I understood. So what I want to take a look at really quickly is because obviously, this is a former UFC fighter. And if we look at his UFC resume, right, this he did the Ultimate Fighter, right? We got a win over Maredo, Chana Jardine, Antonio Nogueira. That's a big win. Rampage Jackson. Dropped one to Glover, dropped one to Machida, dropped one to John Jones and Tito Ortiz. So he's fought the killers over there, man. And to have a win over Rampage Jackson, that is no small feat whatsoever. But the last of the UFC days, wins over OSP, wins over Phil Davis, Rashad Evans, lost to Rumble Johnson right here, Ilir Latifi, Antonio Nogueira again. And then, come on, brother. So it's like, I hear what you're saying. On one hand, I hear what you're saying. On the other hand, I do say this is a credentialed, come on, mixed martial artist who has fought the best of the best in terms of mixed martial arts, period. Now, of course, when I'm looking at these fights and I'm looking at, all of those wins and losses, that all took place in the light heavyweight division. We're talking about a step up. We're talking about the heavyweight division. And I thought it was interesting because one thing I wanted to know was you saw the way that in his fights against Corey Anderson, where he got starched in the first round, in his fights against Lyoto Machida, where it was kind of touch and go, against Nemkov, right? The chin, he was a little chinny at 205. You move up weight a little bit, get a little bit of extra water in your belly, a little hydration, and what do you know? You can take big shots from Moldavsky and not be phased, even though weren't the biggest shots of all time. But so at heavyweight, are we still feeling this way, brother? I'm going to pull the rankings back up and get back to it. Do you think top 4, you think Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, Stipe, Cyril Gane, and Ngannou all smash Bader, or does Bader have a fighting chance here?
Nah, man. I think Curtis Blades out wrestles Bader. I understand what you're saying, Derek. I get you, man. I feel you. I just think Ryan Bader, he might be top tier Bellator scrapper, but I feel like he's middle of the pack in the UFC still.
Okay.
I was saying even on the pre-show, most people don't give Bader the love he deserves.
True.
And I agree. Most people don't. I feel like Bader's a great fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he gets out wrestled by Curtis Blades. Gets absolutely bombed on by Derek Lewis. Stipe, not even a chance. Stipe just out wrestles him all day long. Stipe is the Ryan Bader of the UFC, man. I feel like he doesn't get enough love right there either. Cyril Gane outpoints him, and then Derek Lewis, he might be able to out wrestle Derek Lewis, but once he gets touched once, it's over, man. Ain't nobody getting it on the Predator right there.
Okay, let's take a step back then. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, do you think he could pass that test?
That's where I'm getting a little closer. Yeah, I think Ryan Bader has a way better shot against someone like a Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a striker who's going to kind of stay light, kind of bounce around a little bit. Bader can out wrestle him. Even probably has a little bit of strength advantage. We saw in this fight, man. Bader had a 6-pack rocking.
Oh
You know
yeah,
he's training. He's looking good out there. Even
yeah,
265 6-pack. That's crazy. He goes
absolutely.
up against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who isn't able to utilize that speed and probably has a little bit less power going for him. I think Bader might be able to get that one.
Okay,
What about you?
I mean, I think he out wrestles Rosenstruck all day long. I think if you can just avoid the big shot, I think he could definitely win that fight. What about your boy Chris Dawkins?
Oh man, Chris is. Whoo, I think Bader might get that one just off of experience, just off of. I think they're too closely in style wise
Hmm.
to go at it, and I don't think Dawkins might right now has the power to finish Bader, especially because Bader he may not have eaten the hardest of shots of Moldavsky, but he does have a little bit better of a chin at the heavyweight class, so. That one I'm still giving to Bader, even though it hurts to say to my boy Dawkins, but I've given that one to Bader, man. What about you?
You know what, man? I think I just give a little more respect to Ryan Bader. I think because I think he passes the Chris Dawkins test very easily. The wrestling, once again, I think it's gonna be a little bit too much. If he can avoid the big shot, he can give the big shot too. We saw, like I said, that right hand just rocked Moldavsky within one. If he lands the big shot, that's one of the things I'm talking about. I was like, he fell in love with the hands. I hope that's not too much of an issue here, and it wasn't. But that right hand and that left cross, brother. I mean, for most heavyweights, that's their. If you're an orthodox fighter, those are your weapons. But it was just impressive. And real quick, I just wanted to point out because you were talking about the 6-pack on a Ryan Bader. For the weigh-ins, it looks like Bader weighed in at 232. So these were tiny heavyweights, 232 and 234 for Moldavsky, and that's something that I was actually even thinking about because that does go to prove your point when we're talking about can he stand against Ngannou, Agan, Derek Lewis. It's like, I mean, listen, brother, you want a man to have 30, 40 pounds on you, 50 pounds by the time you in the cage? Probably not. But it is interesting because when I was watching the fight, that's what I was thinking. I was like, these guys are kind of small for a heavyweight, man. Like, these are some tiny boys in comparison to the Ngannou Gan fight that we just saw. But either way, man, I think I can understand the sentiment of where you are at right now in your thinking. And it goes to show that there is a little bit of a discrepancy between the UFC caliber fighters, the Bellator caliber fighters. There's a reason why Ryan Bader was not able to become the champion that he is today, the double champ in the UFC, but he was able to do it in Bellator. Either way, I thought that this was an interesting take on the rankings review and thought we should just give it a little bit of a look.